Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of Autocar Professional Dialogues. Today we have with us Mr. Raghavendra Vaidya, the MD and CEO of Daimler Truck Innovation Center India. Mr. Vaidya, thank you very much for speaking to Autocar Professional.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So, Mr. Vaidya, we are seeing this global transition towards electrification and sustainable transportation and cleaner mobility solutions. So within that, I want to understand what is Daimler's vision towards that and what is the roadmap that you're taking?
Well, I think Daimler's vision is pretty simple. It's no different from the entire industry. We want to help decarbonize transportation, and our contribution as Daimler Truck, which is the largest manufacturer of commercial vehicles, is to create products which are zero emission, either based on battery electric or on hydrogen as a fuel. And that's one part, which is the biggest part, which is to create these really good products of the future. But I think products alone is not going to cut it. We also need the infrastructure around the products. So there, I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to partner, we're trying to influence in building out the infrastructure, whether it is, hydrogen filling stations, or it is, fast charging infrastructure across the globe. That's how we look at decarbonizing the world.
Okay. And what role is DTICI playing in this entire transition for Daimler globally?
Well, let's look at what does it mean to decarbonize transportation from an OEM standpoint, like Daimler Truck. What it means is to engineer, build, and sell trucks which are based on zero emission technologies like battery electric and hydrogen. And predominantly for the last few years, and even next few years until end of the decade and beyond, most of the challenges are in the area of engineering. And that is where DTICI comes into play, because we are an engineering center based in Bangalore, working on products from all regions and all brands. So predominantly, we are contributing to engineering the trucks of the future, which is where currently the challenge lies.
Right. And any specific solutions that you're already working on or you've already developed, not just for India, but for the global markets?
Well, I think we're working on all the product lines. For example, we're working on the Actros and Cascadia product lines, the next generation battery electric vehicles and hydrogen vehicles. And our product development is a global process, and DTICI is fully integrated into that. So we work on every aspect of engineering, right? There is an aspect which is mechanical engineering, electrical, power electronics, and the big part of this is software and electronics that goes into the truck. So we have teams which are working in every discipline of engineering, which pretty much touches every part of the product development.
Right. So what is the latest time frame you're looking at for these the new product lines to go into production?
Well, some of these product lines are already in production, and some are getting into production end of this year, early next year, and we have a product roadmap for next several years.
Right.
And one of the most exciting product which we are very close to launching is what we call as BEV long haul, battery electric vehicle for long haul applications. This is slated to go into production early next year. Right now, we're doing, testing along with our customers. So this is the product that we've been working for many years now. That will go into production early next year, and we'll see a lot of these trucks on the road in Central Europe.
Okay. I mean, just want to understand from you. I mean, you're mentioning BEV long haul here, but typically we would associate, range anxiety to be one of the key constraints with EVs.
Yeah.
So what's the rationale here? I mean, isn't hydrogen or LNG more suitable for these long hauls compared to BEV?
There is no simple answer to that. We firmly believe that both battery electric and hydrogen have their place in trucking. Okay, different applications, different terrains, and different transportation need will either use hydrogen and or battery electric. One or the other technology, at least from where we are in the development of technology, is not going to be enough. So I think the application depends on what transportation need we are fulfilling, and both of them have their own set of challenges.
Right. And when you look at the India market, Mr. Vaidya, so how do you see, what is your observation or your view about the technological roadmap going forward for trucking in India?
But trucking in India is it's hard to predict. I think we're still looking at alternate fuels like CNG and gas-based engines. We are seeing some traction on the hydrogen side, because hydrogen, even though it is difficult to produce, store, and transport, I think if there is one technology that can scale, that's hydrogen. But it's hard to tell where the Indian trucking market is headed. It's still predominantly diesel, but there are lots of gas engines that are being tried out. Not much traction on the electric side. I think on the electric side, most of the action in India is on the passenger vehicles,
Right.
both four-wheelers, two-wheelers. So I think it's kind of hard to predict where it is headed, but definitely there is traction in trying to decarbonize the transportation.
And do you see the technologies like the BEV long haul, you see the application of that in India as well?
BEV long haul is a very, very specific application for the European market.
Okay.
But we also, what we do in our development cycle is we create platforms, right, for different class of vehicles. And the class of vehicles for which we have created the BEV a platform, that does not make sense for India, because these are heavy duty trucks, and we don't use such super heavy duty trucks in India. But
Right.
the concept of platform helps us adapt it to different regions. This is also the power of being a global business, where we develop platforms. They may not be, you can't drag and drop them as it is, but a large portion of the platform development remains the same across regions and across applications. And that's what we're trying to do to develop next generation platforms, whether it is battery packaging, whether it is battery management software, whether it is how we do thermal management for battery electric vehicles, which is slightly different than how we do for diesel vehicles. We try to derive platforms out of it, and there will be need for slight modification and adjustment for different regions, but a large part of the platform is commonly designed.
Do you see in any of these applications that we have in India, the entry-level trucks, the medium and the heavy, do you see the potential of electrification in any of these categories?
Potential always exists, right? I think we've created products in all categories. Like, in our the Daimler Truck Asia business, we have now the second generation light duty electric trucks, right, in Mitsubishi Fuso, and that is selling really, really well in Japan and Indonesia and other markets. So the potential always exists, but the problem is more complicated than just the products. You need to be able to generate enough electricity, and that to green energy. You need to be able to transport it. You need to be able to store it in batteries and then use it in the vehicles. So unless everything comes together, uh, just solving one part of the whole puzzle is not going to give us the carbon neutral transportation. So I think the whole thing has to come together to make it work, and that I think will happen in India. But how and when, it's almost impossible to predict.
So basically, green energy is the key prerequisite for that.
Well, it's not a prerequisite. You can still produce energy from coal,
Right.
and use it to charge batteries. Is that the ideal situation? I don't think so. But are we going to wait for us to produce all green energy to get to battery electric vehicles? Also, I don't think so. But I think it's the entire value chain of how you produce, transport, store, and use energy.
Right. Right. And you're saying that all the platforms that you're developing there from a global perspective. So we see the possibility of some of these coming to the Indian market as well in the future eventually.
Well, possibilities are always there, but I think it depends on what the Indian transportation, ecosystem needs.
Mhm.
And the trucking industry is very local, right? I mean, even the products that we have in Europe and the products that we have in North America are different. And
Right.
that's because the transportation needs are different, the competitive landscape is different, the fleet requirements are different.
Right.
But since we are a global business, we have the ability to take these platforms and implement it in different parts of the world.
Mhm.
But it is totally a function of what the region slash country needs.
Right. Right. And coming to the engineering part of DTICI, Mr. Vaidya, so you mentioned that, software is one of the key,
Yes.
competencies right now that Daimler is leveraging out of India
Mm-hmm.
for its global projects. So if you could just shed a little bit more light on that, how are you sort of, giving the best output in that particular domain, and how does the India team look like, and what are the plans going forward?
Well, I think we for the future of trucks, we look at it two ways. One is power to drive, and second is intelligence to drive. Power to drive is basically, transforming the powertrain and the drivetrain from diesel to zero emission vehicles, which we just spoke about. Intelligence to drive is how do you make the trucks more and more intelligent using electronics and software.
Mhm.
We have teams which are focused on that,
Mhm.
and we have teams that work on, for example, connectivity solutions. In fact, the entire connectivity, the connectivity, connected trucks and connectivity solutions for the entire business is owned out of India, right?
Mhm.
And we have teams which are working on active safety systems. We have teams which are working on HMI, the human machine interface,
Right.
screens that you see in the trucks. Like that, we have on powertrain software, for example. So we have teams which are focused on these four major domains of software that goes into the truck.
Mhm.
And the trucks that we sell in the West, in Europe, and in South and North America, they are what we call as drive-by-wire. So every part of the truck, every sensor and actuator is driven and controlled by a software.
Right.
So we have India teams hugely contributing into these domains.
Mhm.
And if you look at it, the hardware innovation cycle is much longer. If you
Right.
want to bring a new truck into the market, it takes anywhere between 4 to 6 years.
Mhm.
That's how long it takes. But if you look at the software innovation cycle, they're pretty short.
Mhm.
You think of a feature, a safety feature, and if you can implement it using the existing hardware in the trucks, then you implement it as a software feature and you deliver this software over the air. So the trucks don't even have to come to the service station to get updated. So, in order to shorten the innovation cycles and make the truck more
Mhm.
productive, safer, more connected, making more efficiency for the fleets, we're
Right.
focusing on how to do this using software instead of hardware.
Right.
Because you want to change the hardware, it's a long lead cycle.
Right.
And I don't think anybody needs to explain the fact that when it comes to software innovation, there is no place better than India, and that's true for Daimler Truck. So we have teams which are very, very deeply involved in creating these new features
Mhm.
and putting it on the truck so that the same truck can can provide more value to the fleets. Because
Right.
commercial vehicles, people don't buy trucks for fun, right? They buy trucks because they want to transport goods from point A to point B, and that's how the economy runs. So I
Right.
think that for many, many years to come, the major innovations are going to happen on the software side.
Could you give me a sense of some of these features that you're looking to send via OTA to these trucks? Because in past cars, we understand, these are some of the things in infotainment or, something in the digital cockpit. But what sort of features are we talking about when we talk of trucks?
We're talking about connectivity features,
Mm-hmm.
where we extract data from the truck on a real-time basis. send it to the cloud, and try and analyze that and send some feedback back to the trucks. So
Okay.
we're developing connectivity features. I can't go into the details for obvious reasons. We're also developing some safety features, which can work on our current EE architecture.
Mhm.
And we continuously update the infotainment system. We call it human-machine interface.
Right.
But it's the way we look at it in cars and the way we look at it in trucks is very different.
Right.
I think the majority of the focus is on connectivity features and on safety features.
Okay.
And we also, change the behavior of the truck by parameterizing. On the powertrain side, this has a
Mhm.
lot to do with how to tune engines and so on. But a lot of these are happening as we speak.
Right. And what are some of these safety features that you're developing on the existing A&E architecture?
Well, I can't go into the specific features, but it's all about, keeping the truck itself safe
Mhm.
and the environment around truck safe. Because these trucks are really big machines. They're 40 tons, and they can be very dangerous.
Right.
And sometimes the visibility around the truck
Right.
is a big challenge
Yeah.
because it's a large truck, and you have to see around, look around the corners. So here the general direction is, as the truck becomes more and more aware of its surroundings, how can we actively steer the truck or brake, apply brakes, or give feedback to the driver?
Mm.
This is active intervention. This is not
Right.
showing on the screen that, hey, there is a pedestrian to your right. No, there is a pedestrian, you automatically brake, right? So I think being aware of the surroundings and taking evasive actions actively, not passively. Passive safety has been around for a long time, right? So actively taking action on the truck, and we keep pushing the boundary on how we can do that. In front of the truck is has been there for a long time, like active brake assist, emergency braking, and now we have ways to look at on the side of the truck and
Mm.
behind the truck, and it's being self-aware of what's happening around and taking active evasive actions
Right.
to keep the environment around the truck safe.
Right. Right. And when we look at the India market, Mr. Vaidya, so how do you see all these active safety features coming to the India market? What's the trend or the future roadmap you see there?
Active safety features are a function of two things. One is how big is your truck? How heavy is it?
Mhm.
Because the heavy duty trucks tend to be more dangerous, so they
Right.
need to have more active safety features. And how good is your highway network, right?
Mhm.
Because if you see Western Europe, on a highway, a 40-ton truck can be traveling at 80, 90 kilometers an hour, right, for a long time. So the safety features have to be matching this infrastructure in which the trucks are being
Deployed.
driven, and how big they are and how dangerous they could be. So in India, we've seen in the recent times that the government is starting to come out with a regulation on certain safety features. I don't know the exact ones, but it's also because our highway networks have improved leaps and bounds in the last decade, right? So the trucks are traveling at much higher speeds. The highways are much longer, and that warrants regulations for safety. So as they become regulations, we will definitely implement them, and we have the experience of doing that in both in North America and in Central Europe.
Mhm.
So I think that is what I would say. But exactly how it is going to evolve, I think we'll have to wait and watch. Because even if you look at Europe and US, most of the safety features back in the days were implemented to stay, compliant to regulations.
Okay.
And regulations are driven by how to keep the environment safe.
Yeah.
And I think India is going to follow that pattern, but we have the experience of doing it in much more advanced markets. So we will bring it to our products here as and when regulations become real.
But you don't see Daimler taking a voluntary action and introducing some of these features on its own?
Not at all. We will take voluntary action as well to maintain competitive edge, and that also depends on what the India market needs and what it can afford. So that's what our colleagues in Chennai continuously do, and where we come in as DTICI is help them engineer those.
And Mr. Vaidya, what is the technological and investment roadmap for DTICI maybe by the end of this decade?
DTICI is a digital organization, and our investment is predominantly in people, in developing talent, in bringing the best and the brightest from the local ecosystem and giving them opportunity to work on engineering problems, which are the most complex across the globe. So the single biggest investment is in people. We do have some labs that we call as hill labs, hardware in loop. That's as much physical infrastructure as we have and as we will ever have.
Okay.
So it's a digital organization. So the investment is in people, and we take that very seriously.
Right. And any plans in terms of scaling your headcount or your talent pool?
We don't look at it as scaling the headcount. Our strategy is how do we get more and more value out of the India Engineering Center? How do we own solutions from here? How do we develop solutions that go into the product? And the side effect of that is that, yes, we need to add people, we need to recruit more people, which we do. But our goal is to get as close to the product and customer value creation as possible. I think that's where the focus is. And in the last 3 years that we've been around, we've made tremendous amount of progress in how we really get to the core engineering aspects.
Yeah. On that note, thank you very much, Mr. Vaidya. It was lovely talking to you. Thank you so
Thank
much for your insights.
Thank you. You take care.
Thanks
Bye.
again. Thank you.